All right, so I'm out here at FirstEnergy Stadium speaking with Reading Phillies manager Dusty Wathan. And Dusty, you've gotten to climb the ladder here with a core group of guys. Several guys from Williamsport to Lakewood to Clearwater, and now here to AA and Reading. Just want to get your thoughts on maybe some of those guys and how advantageous it can be for a core group to move up together, along with you, and how that could be helpful to you as well.
Well, I think it's a nice thing to have because obviously we have a relationship, and I know what to expect from them. They know what to expect from me. They kind of get a feel of how I run things. So I think it's a nice thing to have. But that being said, there's some guys that are here that I haven't had too. So sometimes it's just it takes a little bit of a feeling out process. But it's really nice. I get comfortable with those guys, and like Troy, I've had I think every single year, and a guy like Tyler Floyd, and they know what to expect from me. So it's a nice benefit.
And you mentioned Tyler Floyd. Now, he's a guy that's really shined here for Reading, even into last year, splitting his year at 2 levels. And I was talking to a couple of the so-called baby aces here today, and they've got that nickname from the media and the fans. And Tyler doesn't always kind of get that same attention. He's a little bit older than those other guys. Just talk about Tyler and maybe why he might not get the same attention as some of the other guys.
Well, I think, early on in his career, he wasn't really highly touted like some of these guys that we got the last couple of years. He's really, I think, exceeded expectations for a lot of people. I think his ceiling is a lot higher than people anticipated a couple of years ago. I think it was huge that he added a cutter a couple of years ago. Now he can make the ball go both ways. He can sink it, he can cut it. And I think when you have a guy like that can throw a lot of strikes, sink it and cut it, there's a place in this game for him, and he's showing that there is a place for him. Not only that, the other thing he does real well is he pounds the strike zone. So obviously everybody likes a guy that throws strikes, and the guy that throws strikes and gets people out is a huge asset to have in your organization.
Just maybe some thoughts on his future going forward. What do you think? You mentioned something about a ceiling. What do you think his is?
Well, I think Tyler can pitch in the big leagues. Whether that's with the Philadelphia Phillies or one of the other teams is yet to be seen. But he's really comfortable starting. He's comfortable throwing out of the bullpen. So that's just another benefit that he has. Some guys have trouble, going back and forth, and he's kind of went back and forth his whole career. Sometimes he'd start, sometimes he'd be in the bullpen. So he does a nice job in both areas and knows how to prepare himself well in both areas. So I think that's going to really help him get that first opportunity in the big leagues, and sometimes that's the hardest one to get. Once you can get your foot in the door, sometimes you can stay, but sometimes getting your foot in the door is the toughest thing. Absolutely.
Now, a couple other guys that you've had at multiple levels that I wanted to mention. Clearly, Cesar Hernandez is one guy that's pretty well touted on this roster. Extremely well regarded for defense. Skipped a level, even went soared right past Lakewood. Just some thoughts on him.
He's come a long way in the year and a half or so that I've been with him. He's really matured as a player. As an individual, he's learning the English language a lot better, which I think helps him. He wants to learn, whether it be baseball, whether it be English, whether it be things off the field, just the way to live and the culture differences in the United States. So I think just him getting older and mature has helped him a lot. He's gotten a lot stronger, more confidence. He's swinging the bat really well this year. I don't think he feels for the ball anymore. At times last year, he really felt for the ball, just trying to make contact. And now I think he trusts his hands and trusts himself, and with his added strength, is able to drive balls, and it's showing up. I don't think he's ever going to hit a lot of home runs, but doubles and triples are definitely part of his game. And his defense has always been solid, and so far this year, it's been just as good as, if not better than it was last year.
Sounds good. Also wanted to ask you about Sebastian Valle, very well regarded catching prospect here in the Philly system, and yourself, you're a veteran catcher of several years of the upper levels of pro ball. Just a veteran guy reviewing a youngster like Sebastian. What would you say about him?
Well, he's got a lot of work to do. I think he'd tell you that. This is a big jump for him this year. This is a spot where he's going to be facing some hitters. There's going to be some older hitters here that sit on pitches, and it's a little bit of a different ball game once you get to AA, when you get those guys that have played 6, 7, 8 years and really know how to hit, as opposed to just going up there and swinging. So I think his game calling is is something that he still needs to continue to work on. And usually as a catcher, that's probably the last thing to come. A lot of times the guy's ready with the bat or ready to receive and throw in the big leagues, but the game calling and the mental part of the game is the last thing to come. And he's got work to do in that area, but we see improvement all the time, and he's willing to work at it, and he does work at it. And having a guy like Steve LaRue around, who's caught for quite some time, does a nice job back there calling a game. I think it's going to help, and hopefully some of that rubs off on Sebastian, and he can kind of pay attention when he's not playing, that he has an older guy in there, a veteran guy that can really handle the workload on the days off.
Absolutely, and just translating right into workload. Workload is something that Tyson Gillies hasn't had much of the past couple years. Quite injury prone, just issues over and over, different things, his feet, his ankle, his hamstring. So he's clearly gotten healthy. He spent some considerable time at full health in Arizona Fall League. Now he's been here roughly a month, and through spring training hasn't had any setbacks. What would you say about Tyson's progress, and do you feel it's good for him to get that confidence back to not really stress over the health?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think, the biggest thing, like you said, is the confidence. I think the biggest thing for him is to get out there and be healthy and do his thing. I think at times there's still stuff in the back of his mind that says, hey, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't do this or that, or push myself this hard. But as he overcomes that, that'll be a big step for him. But just him being out there, being able to run around in the outfield and get his at bats is huge. He's done a tremendous job this year, defensively especially. I mean, He's been really good. I mean, I think defensively he can play in the big leagues right now. Offensively, he's making some adjustments, and that's coming along. And not being able to play the last couple of years, he's behind a little bit offensively, but he's held his own, and I'm proud of him for what he's done this year so far, because that's a long layoff, and then to hop right back into Double-A in a place that he really doesn't have a lot of time at. It's been a good start for him.
And then one last thing for you before I let you go, and thank you very much for the time. We touched on the baby aces. It's a kind of a core group of a few starters here: Trevor May, Jonathan Pettibone, Julio Rodriguez, that get a lot of attention as far as prospect regard goes. Just some thoughts on those guys, and maybe just how they've progressed under your tutelage, and maybe where you see their future.
Well, first talk about Julio. He's had a tremendous year last year. Led the Florida State League in a lot of categories. I think he had 16 wins. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that just, for some reason, they don't hit him. People say, well, he doesn't throw hard and this and that. He reminds me a lot of a guy named Kiko Calero that I played with in Kansas City. Ended up having a pretty good big league career. A lot of people didn't think he could pitch at the big leagues, and they just kept moving him up a level, and he just kept having success. And I think Julio is that same kind of guy. And he's another guy that's starting to mature and realizing the work that has to be put in between starts, and I think that's helped him out a lot. He's really starting to work hard between starts and realize, all the things that go into the non-game days for him. He's a guy that we're just going to have to put at every level and say, here, go pitch, and hopefully he continues to get guys out at all levels. And then Jonathan Pettibone, I think he's probably kind of, if everybody looks at it, like the most polished guy. He's the guy that stands out of the mountain and looks like, a big league pitcher. He's totally under control at all times. He has learned how to throw a couple different pitches. He's going more to a two-seam fastball now that he'll use sometimes. Added a little bit of a slider. So, he's just got to continue to pitch and see where it takes him right now. I mean, he's another guy that works hard and he's fun to watch pitch. A guy that really looks like he's a big leaguer. And then Trevor, Trevor's come a long way since I first had him in Lakewood a few years back. He's matured also as an individual, but I think he's really matured as far as his mental game, being able to accept failure, being able to learn from failure. So I think, obviously Trevor's maybe the highly touted one out of all of them. I guess that's your guys' fault, but
true.
Yeah. So he's another guy that gets swing and miss with his fastball. Last night he threw his curveball was outstanding, and that was probably the best I've seen his curveball of the year. He really has thrown a lot more changeups, but he's another guy that added two-seam fastball last year, and he started to really learn how to use his changeup, which is a big pitch for a power pitcher.